These are ice cold.
The headphones? Why does my microphone seem like it's not in the right spot now?
Because you moved the bar, and it probably moved where it's aligned on the bar.
Since the last time?
Yeah, this is farther away from. Definitely feels like it.
Now I gotta sit here for like 20 minutes and fidget like something's not right. It's off. Welcome to the Desert Lair, episode 3. I'm Dustin, a functional misanthrope. Dylan's here. He's a mostly functional nerd. I think I just barely finished editing the last episode of this. We were a little bit better second time around than the first time. I think I probably edited myself a little more just because, you know, you have this fast kind of rolling speech, and so it's hard to cut things out of that.
Oh, I guess I never noticed.
Yeah, you speak faster than I do, so yeah, whatever, it is what it is. So this week we're talking about Alien Romulus, but we'll do news first. I guess as a follow-up to last week, AMD's released, or will be releasing their new cards. I guess the only thing I wanted to say about that is I just hope that they've come far enough along with their AI frame rendering that they can sort of compete. We just want competition. That way there's not one monolithic company that this is what you have to buy video cards from. I did see where a guy's mouse basically caught fire. Like just a standard USB mouse. Computer was asleep, turned off, the mouse caught fire. He has a picture of it. It's just this melted lump, and there's like a giant burnt spot on his mouse pad. It was like,
It didn't have anything extra. It was just like a standard two-button scroll wheel mouse.
Yeah, I think just a normal, USB mouse. Like, how does a USB mouse draw enough power while the computer's asleep to start a fire, like to melt itself?
USB only draws so much power, so it's for it to melt. Like, it must be something seriously wrong with like the software of like in the mouse, like the drivers, or when you install it or something.
It was asleep, so it was pulling power. It must have been plugged into one of those always-on USB ports, and it was pulling power and something short. Who knows? You know what I mean? I think it was a Gigabyte mouse, and they're going to investigate, obviously. But that was kind of funny. He's just holding this melted lump. I did see, so there's this video game company, Teamkill Media. They're making a game, Code Violet, and I thought it was funny because they said they're not going to bring it to PC, so it's a PlayStation game. They're not going to bring it to PC because they don't want people making inappropriate mods of their main character.
Okay.
Yeah, so first of all, like, you've immediately invoked Rule 34 out the gate. So any mod that you don't want them to make, you're now going to find pornography of this, guaranteed, and it's going to be the most awful thing that someone can think of.
Yeah, I feel like you invoked your wrath by saying whenever going to say that.
I mean, here's the other thing. It's kind of insulting because they asked them, well, what about Xbox? And they're like, well, we just don't have the manpower for Xbox. So it's like, we don't have the manpower for Xbox. We maybe have the manpower for PC, but you guys are a bunch of filthy degenerates, the PC master race people, so we're not making a game for you because you could make some inappropriate content. Like, what the fuck, man?
There's inappropriate content of like literally everything. That's the entire like point of what Rule 34 is supposed to be, but whatever.
I don't know. Just why would you use this as your reason to not bring a game to PC? To me, you're just intentionally trying to insult PC gamers.
Maybe someone is generally offended or something, and they weren't aware of it before, but now like they're a part of it, they understand now. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, you would have been better off if you just said something like, piracy's big on PC, or do the same thing you did with Xbox. We don't have the manpower, but nope, you filthy scumbags are gonna make nudie mods of our main character, and I don't know, man. It's like, what are these guys thinking? I did laugh. So this game, Code Violet, I went and looked at like a trailer of it. Dinosaurs in space or something. It's like this sci-fi thing, and they're on a planet, and there's dinosaurs. But I was laughing because I'm reading the comments, and the guy's like, oh, I could have sworn it was going to be Jurassic Park that brought dinosaurs to space.
What?
I don't know. I thought that was kind of funny. What do we got next here? Elon Musk, I guess, admitted to someone about account sharing or letting people use his account or paying people to use his account.
He made it so obvious, and everyone was like, "We don't believe a single word you say if you say you didn't account share." That he pretty much had to admit it at some point.
Yeah, so I think someone got a screenshot of, a private conversation that he said, yes, of course I did this. You have to in order to compete with the Asian market. So I don't know what it is, but the point of it is people are asking now, well, are you going to ban his accounts because this is against terms of service? Or are you not going to ban it because he's a billionaire? So now it's a political. How many people do they actually ban for this, realistically?
I don't know, not much, because I'm assuming several people in like those types of games talk about if it's so standard thing to do, then it's like, what's the point of really trying to compete for the best when many others cheat by paying people to do their account for them?
I mean, it's not competitive, right?
Well, I mean, there is a leaderboard of like the hardcore thing for a lot of those games, where it's just like, oh, you can see who's the best.
Yeah, but it's not competitive like PvP.
Oh, no, not that type of, no.
So I get it. It's against the terms of service. He's already made a jackass out of himself. Do we really care? And plus, if you ban him, he's going to buy another account and pay someone else to get it up and then just not say anything. So what difference does it make?
That's an exciting example. It's like, well, we know about it now. It's like, on principle, I guess we have to do it, rather than these type of people who do it anyways. They're just, the moment you ban it, they're just going to do it again and again.
Yeah, I mean, I think they asked the companies for comment, and they declined to comment, obviously, because it's a person's personal account. Plus, I don't know if he publicly admitted to doing it like it was in a private message. So whether they can use that or not, whatever. Thought it was interesting. People are like, are you going to ban his account now? They're not necessarily wrong, I guess. GTA 6, they were talking about it, and I guess in some kind of meeting they were saying that other game companies would like GTA to come out at $100 because it will help set a precedent for other games to come out at.
Well, GTA 6, that could work for, because, I mean, it's one of the most popular video game franchises there is. I mean, GTA 5 made how much money? Just because you want to set the precedent doesn't mean people are going to buy your game because it's $100 automatically. They're going to I feel like reviews and kind of what other people think that early access to it are going to see it look like. If it's worth it, they're going to buy it. If it's not, they're not going to buy it. You're going to have to go back down to the normal price.
Probably at $100, maybe they make less sales. There's an economy of scale and all that involved. The bigger point was that other gaming companies supposedly hoped that they would bring it out at $100. That way the other gaming companies could raise the prices of their games. Not necessarily to $100, but like say from 50 to 60 or from 60 to 70. They want Grand Theft Auto to set the precedent. That way they can raise prices across the board.
There are plenty of games who tried to do that, make it a quadruple A title, and it lost millions of dollars, and they realized that they shouldn't have done that. You could try it, but I mean, some games I feel like people would buy it if it's good enough. But again, if it's not good enough,
Well, consider this. What's the brand new price of most games now? $59.99, $69.99.
It's $60, but there's almost always like a battle pass or something
so
right
so
out
say
the gate.
$59.99.
Yeah.
So the point is, what if now all brand new games, just the price of all brand new AAA games went up to $79.99 or $69.99?
I feel like you're just wanting people to pirate more.
Yeah, but I don't think that's I don't think that changes that number very much. I think basically it's just a way for game companies to have Grand Theft Auto, have Rockstar set the precedent, and then they raise prices across the board, and then it is what it is.
Certain game companies will do it, but others won't. So it's just like, okay, well, now there's even a bigger competitive thing of like, if you're a smaller game company, if you release it for a lesser price, would that make it more appealing than the others?
I would say pretty much every AAA title, like if one starts doing it or if a few start, they're all going to do it, no matter who they are. Great. Now games are going to be $70 or whatever. So.
Well, I mean, eventually it was going to get there. It's just inflation, and game companies always try to do that, like one step forward, two steps back, with like, okay, let's release something super egregious that everyone hates and see how much backlash we get, and then we'll take a step back But in the end, we still take a step forward for getting more money out of people. I mean, that's what they always do.
Well, I guess with the release of Grand Theft Auto 6, potentially plan to pay more for video games coming out. All games. Anything else you wanted to talk about?
The new Doom, the Dark Ages, I thought looked really interesting because they kind of changed the mechanic of. They talked about like the Eternal being like a fighter jet where you just move really fast and try and go things. In this game, they want you to be more like a tank and be a little slower, and you actually have a shield. And you like throw it like Captain America, and you can block and parry and stuff. I thought would look interesting.
So we're taking Doom into melee combat now with shields and swords and.
Yeah, so you have you're like it just has shield with like a chainsaw on it, pretty much. And
So now we're Ash from Evil Dead.
I would say like it just has like Warhammer Space Marine where they have the chain sword.
Yeah.
Well, instead of just being on a sword, it's on a shield.
No.
So yeah, it's just like the outer rim of the shield has like a chainsaw on it.
So are there still guns and stuff?
Yeah,
or-
you still use guns. So like in your offhand, you have your shield, and then your other hand, you're using your gun. But they do have melee weapons. They talked about like a flail and like electrified gauntlet and like a snip of club or mace weapon.
Interesting.
And another really interesting point I thought about, or they talked about, was difficulty. Like, so instead it's a normal, like normal, hard, very hard, hardest or something, they have like scalars for each individual thing you can customly modify. So it's like your health, their health, how much damage it do, how much damage you do, how fast the game goes, how much spawns do you want to be, more spawns or less. I thought was interesting. Instead of just making the highest difficulty and make all the modifiers high, you can make certain modifiers higher and other ones lower.
Yeah, that's a really neat feature that they've set it up so that you can customize your difficulty. I actually like that. It's a pretty cool.
Yeah, the one people talked about the most is like the game speed. So it's just like your movement speed. You can make it like the normal, or you can make it like quadruple speed or whatever. So you just move insanely fast. But I mean, of course, all the other enemies move just as fast as you do. So it's, can you move, like, can you play that fast while still effectively, not getting hit?
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, that is a pretty cool feature. I'm sure it'll make for some interesting Let's Plays or whatever, people trying to play at the highest speed and see how far they can get.
Yeah, and then the other game, it had a trailer for a couple weeks ago. I didn't see it until now. Was Blood of the Dawnwalker. It's like a RPG, and they talked about it being like Witcher and Vampire the Masquerade together. It has like that feel of Witcher 3, but instead of being like a Witcher, you're a vampire. I thought it looked really interesting. And it's made by several people from the dev team for Witcher 3, but they like made their own company.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it looks fascinating. Like, I'm definitely interested, but the way games now is it's like I'm hesitant to like, okay, I've bought into this. It's always a wait and see type of game now, I swear.
At least there's a glimmer of hope because there's a pedigree behind the people making it.
Yeah, so we'll see, I guess. But I mean, it definitely looks interesting.
Was there any kind of release date or is just something in development?
No, it's just something in development. They really didn't talk about a release date, so I'm assuming it's at least a couple years away. But they at least released alpha footage or whatever, like some combat and a couple other things. And they have like a cinematic trailer. In the trailer, they have like different vampires that help this guy get away from like these soldiers that are chasing him. And they each fight differently. Like one does like full melee, and the other one has dexterity, like kind of like short sword where he like blinks or whatever. I thought was interesting. Another lady has like, blood magic. So it's like, I'm assuming that's like the 3 different types or whatever you can play.
Sounds interesting. Good RPGs are always something we want. Anything else?
No, nothing else for games.
You want to get into this Alien Romulus? So this is directed by Fede Alvarez. He directed Evil Dead 2013, Don't Breathe, that was 2016, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022. So basically, this guy's a horror movie guy. So he does horror movies. I thought it was kind of interesting. He had pitched the movie to Scott Free Productions, which is Ridley Scott's movie production company, like a number of years ago, and they talked about it. But I think Ridley Scott was doing Prometheus and those movies, and then I think it came back up. And so, I mean, it's kind of an honor in a way to be able to make a movie with Ridley Scott's kind of IP, and to have Ridley Scott, kind of hand over the reins to you. So that's pretty cool. So it was kind of neat. It's kind of, I guess, an in-between cool. is what they call it, which is a infuriating term, but it's after the original Alien, but before Aliens.
Oh, okay.
So timeline wise, that's where it falls. And the movie, you know, kind of supports that as well. This movie, it's basically a love letter to the entire Alien franchise. It's super clear Fede Alvarez, I mean, even from all the interviews, is, you know, he loves this franchise. Especially, you know, specifically the first Alien, but it's a love letter to the entire franchise. Even the bad ones, even the bad stuff too. Like, you could tell this guy really just loves his franchise. Almost this entire movie, or most of this movie, is all practical effects. And so that was what, you know, Ridley Scott did in the original Alien. This movie looks fucking incredible. Like, I love the way this movie looks. All the practical effects they did are super awesome. Like, I have a laundry list here of all these scenes that they shot that just look awesome. The opening 25 minutes of this is basically just them flexing, like, look at how awesome we made this movie look. You have the opening shot with all those computers, right? So it's the ship, and it has, you know, the ship's computers and all the buttons and stuff. Man, that looks so great. I absolutely love that. I'm old enough to have had a DOS computer that I had to enter commands in order to get to a program. You know, there's a little bit of nostalgia there with all that old 70s-ish computer stuff that they have. Like, just the visual graphics on the old, you know, the Target computer and stuff. Like, it looks so neat.
I did feel like they kept the spirit of the old ones with like the way the ships look, but it's like they try to make it as the fidelity as good as possible without like ruining the aesthetic of what the original had.
Yeah.
I like that part.
Yeah, the aesthetic just, it looks great. The entire movie looks great. The ship stuff I like. And even the sounds, you know, the beeps and the boops and stuff of all the computers, like, it's super cool. You have the shot of the alien rock that they pull from the rubble of the ship that Ripley blew up. And they're cutting that alien out, and those curtains, you know, it's all dark in there, and they got the curtains lit up, and it looks super awesome. But all I'm thinking is, like, why are you trying to do this super specific laser cutting operation in the dark? Why?
I don't know. I guess that's kind of like the homage to horror movies. They always got to make it look like, you know, not just a normal scene. It's always got to be dark and dreary. Like every scene is ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, it looks awesome, but I'm just thinking, like, if I'm a scientist in there, I'm like, can we turn on the light maybe? Like, I can't see what I'm doing. We're going to fucking chop someone's finger off with this laser or something. And then it cuts to rain, you know, and she's sitting in the grass on that planet, and you have the sun rising, and there's just the fog and the mountains and stuff. Man, that looks so cool. And then after that, she wakes up, and even the lighting in their, you know, her sleeping area, so that orange bar light right across the top of her bed, like, the lighting in there is so perfect. And then all the, you know, beds behind her start lighting up. I mean, obviously, I like lighting. You know, we're in a fucking orange-colored bar here. So all this orange-colored palette in this thing is super, like, I'm just ecstatic about it. And then the cafeteria shot is all orange, all these orange lights. That looks cool. And then they move outside, like, to the colony outside. You just get this panning shot of mining stuff in the background, and then there's the bar sign. Man, it looks so cool. And they walk by the bar, and you have all the red windows. And then it cuts to the shot of them walking towards the pod, and you have all these giant driving, you know, vehicles. And again, all the machinery in the background. Everything about this just looks awesome.
Yeah, like I said, I thought it looked great with like making it look as new as possible while still keeping to like the overall aesthetic of the older ones.
And then, like you said, the ship models, those are all practical models. Like, I was looking at some of the behind the scenes stuff, and they have a model that's like, I don't know, maybe like 12 foot by 6 foot. Like, how long did it take to create this gigantic practical ship model? Like, someone had to hand paint probably this thing.
Yeah, I could imagine how long that would have took.
Yeah, it's insane. Like, this movie, it's insane. I still have a laundry list of stuff here. All the ship interiors as well, you know, when they're going through the doors and stuff, like they have the light bars on the bottom and more of the old control panels and stuff. Like, And then they get inside there and they have all those fans. I don't know if you remember the fans, and there's just the orange light coming from behind all these fans. Like, I could make that a desktop background. It's so cool looking.
It definitely looked interesting.
I really liked the shot where Kay is in the corridor. There's an alien in there or whatever, and there's all this orange lighting, and there's all this fog coming up, and the old electronics on the wall. And then the overall shot of, like, the command center where Rook is at, you know, he's sitting on the table. It shows you, like, this far pan back shot. And I'm like, they put so much detail work into this set. And it's an actual set that they built. Like, it's not CG. It's not green screen. They literally had people building these sets. Like, the sets on this movie are incredible. The one thing, though, that did not look good is the android Rook.
Yeah, I feel like they did their best what they could because the actor passed away, but they still wanted to kind of like give homage to that of like being android, where they're like a factory set where they don't look any different, and they wanted to like go back to that. So I understood the purpose of it, and they did the best they could.
Yeah, like I said, this movie is a love letter, right, to all the Alien franchise, and they, again, like I said, they wanted to kind of have an homage to Ian Holm, and that's cool and stuff, but it doesn't look great. Like, it's not the worst thing in the world, but he's just got this super plasticky, waxy look about him, and especially when he starts talking and his lips are moving, like they're kind of weird, stretchy CG. Like, it just doesn't look good, man. I don't know. I guess, you know, everything else looks great. We can forgive the weird, waxy CG half practical model thing. I mean, the rest of the model looks cool. You know, his half body that they just kind of throw up on the table.
I thought that part was funny. It's like
just dump him up there. I guess so. Anyway, this is a story of Rain. She's essentially an indentured servant due to her parents' selfish choice to procreate while they were indentured servants themselves. Rain kind of carries out her indentured, or her contract, I guess, on this mining colony with her autistic android, Andy, who she considers her brother. She dreams of a place where she can see the sun. At the start of the movie, she's finished with her contract, and so she goes to get her leave, right, or her pass, so she can get off world or off colony or whatever. And the corporation, in a plot point requiring an insurmountable amount of suspension of disbelief, doubles her contract time, denies her pass to leave, and tells her to report to the mines. So right off the bat, this movie immediately falls apart.
they say it's a contract, so it's like I'm assuming you sign sort of thing. How out of nowhere, at their convenience, they just extend it? Isn't a contract, you know, once it's over, and you have to re-sign to do it again?
So here's the thing. When I saw this, my first thought was, well, they spent all their money on the visual effects, and they should have hired a writer. They could have easily fixed this, right? So instead of having this ridiculous plot point, like, I get they're trying to say, like, capitalism is the evilest bullshit ever. Okay, I'm on board with that message. But even this just seems way too far-fetched. What they should have done is had Rain in the middle of her contract, a 30-year-long contract, and she's 10 years into it. It's never going to end, right? She's probably going to die before the contract. And then her, ex calls her up with this scheme. And she goes for it because she wants to get out of there. Like, she doesn't want to do this for the rest of her life. They could easily have written that in such a way where it made sense rather than come up with some just ridiculous plot bullshit. And then by the biggest coincidence in the world, her ex happens to have a scheme right as she gets denied leave. Like, what? Come on, man.
Yeah, I just also found it funny. It's like the clerk or whatever she's talking to, it's like, we're your parents. And she's like, they literally died in the mines from like lung something. And it's like, well, you got your contract extended. Report to the mines. Or the people who got you in this first place died. It's like, yeah, that sounds great. That whole part made me laugh. I was like, yep, let's go to exactly the place where my parents died and put me in this person, like, situation in the first place. I was just like, wow. Talking about just make your life seem hopeless.
Thanks for the sensitivity, lady.
Yeah.
Where are we at here? Again, so super conveniently, your ex calls her, has this scheme, needs to see her. She goes to meet them. She walks over to where their pods are at. And again, the visuals look great. And we meet Bjorn. So immediately, the first thing I think when we meet Bjorn is, can we kill this guy ASAP?
I wasn't to that level, but I was like, I knew the moment he didn't like androids, I was like, this is going to be a plot point later in the point of like making a.
Well, no. I'm not even going there.
Okay.
What I'm talking about is his accent.
Oh, okay.
Like, his accent was so... Listen, I get it. If you're doing a movie, there are times when you intentionally want to make it so that you can't understand a fucking word that's coming out of a person's mouth. Like, for instance, the movie Snatch with Brad Pitt, where he talks like a gypsy, and you don't understand what he's saying. The characters in the movie don't understand what he's saying, right? It's done for comedic effect. I get that. I also get, if you're making a movie in, like, New Orleans or something, and you can't... You know what I mean? That makes sense. But don't give me a movie where everyone speaks English and have a character whose accent is so thick that no English-speaking person can understand what he's saying. How much of what he said did you understand?
Maybe half.
Okay, exactly. So, listen, I should not have a movie that I'm watching in my Dolby Atmos home theater where I can't understand what the fucker is saying. It's unacceptable. So yes, immediately I was like, when does he die? Like, can there just be he steps out into the street or something, and a car just randomly runs him over? So yeah, that part annoyed me. So, her friends, they have this scheme, right, with this space station, and they want to go and get these cryopods because they need the cryopods, right, to get anywhere because they're so far away from anywhere else. And they need her because her android, Andy... He's the only one who couldn't open the doors. They go along with that or whatever. I guess my question is, like, first of all, this space station cost, what, $1 trillion? Some crazy amount of money, right, to build this space station. You don't have anything in place that stops it from deteriorating in orbit? Like, what? Don't we have safeguards in place to guard your floating city? Like, Jesus Christ, man.
That whole part of like, so a bunch of like teenagers are able to take a ship right up to the thing, get to their front door, and like nothing happens. Like, there's no extra security. Like, nope, just because they have an android, it automatically works. It's like, okay, that whole thing of like him just being able to, yep, I tapped in, it's unlocked. It's like, just because you're an android, it automatically works. I'm assuming there has to be some level of extra security involved rather than just, you're an android, it automatically works.
Again, the writing in this movie, horror movies in general have a lot of suspension of disbelief, but there are a lot of maybe some plot holes in this movie. Could have used some work. All I know is this. If I'm a massive corporation and I have $1 trillion space station, it's not going to fall out of the goddamn sky. Someone is getting fired. So Andy, I guess we can talk about him. His autism, I guess, is kind of, endearing, and they use that to kind of pull some emotional strings. But at the same time, it's like, can an android be autistic? Like, is that a thing?
I feel like it's more of like, because they talk about Rain's father finding him in like some trash heap or something because he was discarded. And he like barely fixed his like, memory core or whatever, like the primary like brain for the android, and it's like damaged or something.
Yeah, but I don't feel like that makes your android have a cognitive disability. You know what I mean? Like, he's basically autistic, which is like, I feel like they could have made him buggy, or they could have done anything to make him kind of endearing and need help. Have to be the little brother. There were other things they could have done other than we've made an autistic robot, which just, it seemed a little weird to me. I don't know.
Isn't in the other movies, the android tries to be like pretend to be human, but they're not. So it's like, I'm assuming they have some sort of thing where their personality to make it, not so robotic and make it look more human sort of thing.
Yeah, But again, it doesn't turn him into an autistic.
It makes them look more human by having a flaw, I guess. But
You're right. You're absolutely right. And I understand what they were doing with that. I just feel like they could have done it a different way, maybe. It feels a little contrived is all, I guess. So we find out Kay is pregnant. They have this little scene or whatever. And I have to have a rant. Like, this just pisses me off. Like, you're an indentured servant, more or less, right? Like, they've made this clear. You're an indentured servant. And not only that, you're a thinly veiled slave, basically. You're literally stuck in this place. You cannot leave. And they're clearly not really letting anyone leave. So this indentured servitude is essentially an eternal servitude. You're a slave. So why are you going to procreate? Why are you going to bring a child into a world where they're going to immediately become an indentured servant? So you have this miserable life that you're trying to get out of, and you're going to have a kid? What the fuck is wrong with you? Like, you're literally perpetuating slavery at this point of your own children.
me and you both have the we don't want kids, and I don't know I can't understand the mindset of someone who would, who doesn't deserve it, or like you said, why would you want your children to be born into pretty much being a slave? It's like I don't know. Like,
Yeah, do they not have birth control in this universe? Like, listen, I get the point is like the corporation is supposed to be evil, and they are, and clearly they're the bad guy. But guess what? Basically, all of these kids, all the cast in this movie, or the characters, they're victims of their parents who decided that they were going to breed and have children and bring them into a life of servitude. Like, what are you doing?
that's one of the things I didn't understand about that. I was like, okay, like having children is nice, but like you said, do you really want to make them having a miserable life of practical slavery? Like,
Yeah, like it's mind-boggling. Like, I don't understand. This girl's parents clearly had her, and she became an indentured servant, and now you and your idiot boyfriend are going to bring another kid into the world and have, like, I don't know, man. That part irritated me almost immediately. So I guess on to maybe a more lighthearted topic. I did like the interplay between Tyler and Bjorn kind of in the, walking through the ship or whatever. And he's like, why are you so obsessed with my balls? You have to let this go.
oh,
Just their banter or whatever. That was kind of funny. As they're walking through the station, Bjorn looks at that painting on the wall. Do you remember that scene?
yeah, I remember that painting.
Yeah, so it's like all the dead bodies and stuff. So that's a painting of the plague of Marseille.
Oh, okay.
In, what is it, like 1720 or something? So essentially what happened, they had all these quarantine protocols, because they had plague and stuff. So the ship with plague came in and people were dying. Well, it was like a trade ship. It had all these trade goods. So all the merchants wanted to get the stuff off. And so they put pressure on whatever authority or whatever, and then released all this stuff and released a fucking plague on everybody. Thematically, it's very fitting. This painting fits. But here's what I feel like. If I'm the head of this space station or whatever, and we're walking through, and it's like, all right, what do we have here? Oh, this interior decoration. Oh, we have a picture of Peter Wayland. Cool. That makes sense. And we have our Wayland Yutani logo or whatever. And what the fuck is, like, we have what is this painting of all these dead people? Why is this on the station? Like,
Yeah, I thought that was there. It was like, of all the things you want to hang, this is what you hang.
like, thematically it fits, but I want to be in the room when someone's walking through and they're like, what is this? Why are we hanging? Maybe this is not the message we want to send to people about, plague bodies on a space station.
Also, they talk about like while they're on that planet with the mining, it's disease and like plagues are a big deal or whatever on that planet, and people keep dying from it.
Yeah,
So I'm assuming it's almost like a normal to see, plague stuff or whatever. So
I think that painting specifically is referencing the space station full of that black ooze that they used to create all the stuff. But
yeah,
the other thing is stuff happens, right? And they get into the space station, and then so we're at the scene with all the face huggers. they all, pop out of the wall and the temperature starts rising. And the only thing I can think is like, do we not have these fucking things in cages?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess my other thought was, okay, you need them for test subjects. Don't you need like 5?
Why have you created an army of these
Yeah.
things?
Don't you need like, a few? Why do you need so many? Like, I feel like you're asking something to go wrong.
Well, yeah, and in addition to that, so not only did we create an army of these things, but we put them in the, like, basically an ice cube gel pack thing, and as soon as it thaws out, they all, like, who designed this? You can't, like, don't we have cages in the cargo bay or something? Can we not freeze them inside of a box they can't get out of?
Yeah, I didn't understand that. Well, you said it was between the first one and second ones. There's not as much like development, but it's just like, okay, you saw what happened when one got loose. It destroyed an entire ship of people, and one person by a miracle got away. Yeah, let's just make all these like a bunch of them, and then we'll do a bunch of tests, and nothing could ever go wrong, right?
And we'll put them in, we'll just freeze them in these little gel pouches or whatever we have for them. I don't know.
I just feel like you want to be an evil corporation and do evil stuff, like, okay, but like you can not be an idiot and do that.
Do we have OSHA anymore? Like, fuck.
Yeah, I don't know. It just
So facehuggers, obviously, thematically, I mean, they literally represent rape, right? I don't know if you've ever seen like a facehugger like mouth thing close up, but it's a vagina. It's literally a vagina, and then a penis comes out of their vagina mouth. So it's like,
yeah. There was a part in the scene where like one of those was on her ex or whatever, and it was like super trying to like get into its throat, but yeah, I was just like, oh god, this is just like the imagery. I was just like, oh no.
well, it's like if you survive an encounter with this thing, you're gonna be like the deep throat king. They need to make an episode of South Park. Like, do you remember the episode of South Park where they have? I don't know if you watch. I don't watch a lot of it, but they have an episode of South Park where they're going to these musicals, and the musicals have subliminal messages to make all the wives give blowjobs or whatever.
I did not see this episode.
It's an awesome episode of South Park. It's pretty funny, but they need to have an episode of South Park where they just breed facehuggers to like create women and or men or whatever who could just deep throat like. I don't know. I thought it was pretty hilarious, but like you said, all the imagery, like this phallic thing, is just sloshing around all over everyone's face. I kind of like the original one better, where it rapes a man rather than a woman.
I feel like Navarre, the lady who gets infected first, I feel like they chose her on purpose because of Bjorn and his hatred of androids. I feel like I just saw that scene coming a mile away. Where she's infected, and Andy was like, yeah, she's infected, yo. She's going to die no matter what. We need to leave her and leave. And I feel like at that point, they're like, well, we can't leave her. It's like, as someone who's been on a planet with a bunch of plagues, and you understand of like, okay, if this person has the plague, and we don't have medicine to fix them, they are going to die no matter what, and most likely infect other people. But, let's take them with us. That would be a good idea. I just feel like they would be more understanding of, you have something that cannot be fixed. Yes, the emotional attachment is big, but it's just, do you want everyone else to die along with you?
At least in this movie, they're young and they're kind of stupid and they don't listen and they don't think about that kind of stuff, which one of the scenes I do kind of like is where Tyler's sister in that cargo bay or whatever it is, and she's locked in and that alien is ready to swoop down and grab her, and Andy's about ready to let her out and stops, and Tyler breaks down on his knees and is begging Andy to open the door, and then just gets completely hysterical over it. Like, I liked that scene. That was a good scene.
You're literally seeing that thing standing like 10 feet behind her on that. The moment you open the door, it's going to jump and freaking kill her. Do you really want to risk all of us dying?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It was a good scene to show the contrast of cold logic versus human emotion. But I just thought it was good because I felt like his reaction, Tyler's reaction, where he literally breaks down on his knees and is begging and gets hysterical, was pretty realistic. I thought that was good.
Well, that's when he figures out she's pregnant, too. I feel like that was part of the emotional scene that made it better.
Yeah, exactly. He knows that she has created another slave baby, so... Another one of the nods in this movie is the Reeboks. You probably didn't notice this, right? I assume not.
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So in the original movie, they made Reeboks. Ripley is wearing Reeboks, like these almost kind of like super high top, almost boot style sneakers. They're pretty neat looking. Like they look like something that rolled out of the 80s. I saw a pair on eBay. Like they actually made these shoes so you can buy them. They had limited collector's editions or whatever. I think I saw them on eBay for like $4,000 or something.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, I mean they're expensive, but they're pretty neat. You know, they come in this super shiny box or whatever. Like it's pretty cool. But so in this movie, they brought the sneakers back. They're Reebok, and so as I think it's one scene where she's climbing down a ladder, maybe in the elevator shaft. It gives you a quick, like it's maybe half a second, but it's another nod. They actually re-released these shoes, not quite the same ones that were in the original that Ripley had, but another version of them. They probably sold out instantly. I'm sure they bought them all up and immediately turned them over on eBay, but they're kind of neat, and it was a cool nod. Do we want to talk about the ending of this movie?
I wasn't there yet.
Oh, all right.
In one of the movies, they literally had trained Marines fight or whatever. And it's like in that movie, it felt like they were barely holding on. Now we have a bunch of kids in their 20s who don't even have weapons who managed to like fight against these things. It felt like they toned back the lethality of the xenomorph.
Well, keep in mind that the xenomorphs, they have a different evolution based on what they're intermingling the DNA with. And plus, these ones were kind of directly from the black ooze stuff or whatever. So there's a little bit of a plot point about that. And for most of the movie, there is only like one or two aliens that they're running from until the end. And at that point, they're not really fighting them. They're running from them. So I can give them a little bit of leeway, although I do get where you're coming from with that.
Yeah, I feel like that point was they literally have trained Marines in one of the other movies where half of them die in the first like encounter. And then in this one, they slowly chip them off. I don't know. I feel like they toned it back a little bit.
Again, they don't have a lot of the aliens that come out till the end. And then they have that whole gravity scene where they're like playing Frogger around all the acid and stuff. But yeah, I kind of get that.
The whole like black ooze thing, I was just, you're an evil corporation, you want to make life extension stuff. You have to know this is going to go so wrong. Like, there's that scene with the rat where they showed Rook takes over pretty much the ship, and he's like, okay, until you get this, you can't leave. And they're like, okay. And he literally shows them a video of the rat, and it's pretty much dead. And then they inject the ooze in it, and it comes back to life. Well, they just conveniently walk away right before it shows the scene where it goes completely. The alien tries to come out of the rat. And then like it pans to the cage where it's just some mangled half rat xenomorph that they just didn't see at all. You just didn't see that whole part.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't have mattered really anyway.
Yeah, they would be much more skeptical about, were you really going to do this? And especially the part where the lady injects herself with it. There is no way, after seeing what happened to the rat, you would do that to yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I get, she's got her little slave baby that she's trying to protect or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I think the point is that she was on her deathbed, like she was bleeding to death or something. And so maybe that's what pushed her over the edge, I guess. But yeah, maybe injecting the non-Newtonian evil space ooze is maybe not the best choice in the world, but...
Then the baby alien or whatever. So you saw what happened where Ripley's like cloned and they make that new alien or whatever.
Yeah,
like,
it's the
like,
fourth movie.
Yeah, it gives birth. And that one seemed like it was evolved and had more intelligence and was, had more physical attributes. This one it had a new body and was like, I don't know what to do. It didn't know how to move its legs. And
and it goes from like an infant to a 7'7" tall basketball player, which I think is who played that character. This movie just jumps off the rails. The director said that he'd kind of talked about this, and the people from the studio were basically telling him, like, we don't think you should do this. Like, it's a little bit too far. And so he's like, obviously, I have to do it now. Like, there's no... I just laughed. It was so off the rails. Like, she spits out this baby, and then it starts sucking the fluid out of her. Like, oh, man, it's just like...
Yeah, and that part, too. In the fourth movie, it felt like it rejected the xenomorph queen and wanted Ripley to be its mother. Well, that one, it felt like it looked at her like a piece of meat, pretty much.
The whole sequence was just, it was batshit. Again, this movie is a love letter to the entire franchise. I wish in this particular case, the love letter was to like the ending, more of the ending of the second movie. Like, give us an alien queen. Don't give us this freaky alien baby monstrosity thing. Like, give me the awesome alien queen.
That just made me frustrated with. Yeah, this is the perfect being. It was like it can't go faster 2 miles an hour because it can't walk properly.
I mean, it was still pretty creepy.
Oh yeah, it definitely got that creature monster look, but it's like I don't know.
So you weren't a fan of the 7 foot tall basketball baby?
No, maybe if it was what you would think of the perfect specimen of this is the perfect evolution. Like Rook repeatedly said that of like this is the perfect evolution. This is why we want the black ooze, and it's just like, well, this is what happens when you put the black ooze in people. It turns into this, or they're cannibals. In essence of eating their own and not being able to move very quickly, of like compared to someone that can literally climb on walls and jump freaking 20 feet easily.
Yeah. Well, listen, the ooze was in the initial stages. They needed a little more work to create the perfect being. They weren't quite there yet. Just relax, man. Give them some room to work.
Oh, but yeah, you were saying something about the ending.
No, that's just I that is the ending.
Oh, okay.
I kind of wanted to talk about the alien crazy baby thing. Anything else?
If they're going to make another one, where in the timeline is it going to be? At a certain point, we have so many movies and we want to make a new one. Where do we put it?
You're gonna have more in between quills, I suppose.
Yeah, which is just weird. Like,
all of these movies, or at least the ones that Ridley Scott has done anyway, they're alien movies, but the androids play very heavily into them. This is a theme that he likes, and I like it. Science fiction with robots is my favorite type of science fiction. He likes exploring these themes, and obviously they did that a little bit in this movie. If I were going to watch another movie, I'd probably bring back David. Give me a movie with him where he does some interesting things.
oh, the Prometheus and the one after that movie. Wow, they like really went on the android as a cold calculating machine. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, so I guess if we get another movie, just give me the damn android movie. That's what I want. Not that I don't like the aliens, but give me the android movie.
I did remember a scene that I wanted to talk about where they're running away and he's at the door and it's like, okay, when do I close it? And he's like, I perfectly calculated your running speed and how long it would take you. I was like, okay, what happens if he tripped?
Yeah.
Or like, dude. Yeah, I was like, how are you going to explain to your sister that, yep, I closed the door on one of the remaining people alive and I could have waited a couple seconds.
Hey, no harm, no foul.
That whole scene was just, I was like, okay, you may have factored in how long, the speed of like, and how fast the doors close.
Whether he's going to glide across the floor when he slides.
So many things could have gone wrong, and now you just killed this guy. Like,
it was just part of trying to show that he's calculating now, right?
Yeah.
You want to give this a score? Want me to go first?
Yeah, you go first.
I'll go first. So, if I were scoring this movie strictly on visuals, 5 stars out of 5. Easily. All day. For the action movie itself, I'm going to go 3.5 stars. Next time, maybe let's hire another writer or an editor.
Yeah, I had almost the same exact opinion. Visuals, it was so great. The homage, the old one, they did it so well. And like you said, I feel like they spent the entire budget and all of those people. And they're like, well, let's go to like the writing school for people who are not even graduated yet to like write this.
Yeah, I mean, in fairness, the director probably had a lot of the writing credit as well. And he writes horror movies, but this is a science fiction too, man. Like some of that takes a little more craft.
The visuals and certain things are so excellent, but the story, it was just I really the movie has to have a good story. I want to say 3.5, but I'm honestly leaning more towards 3.
3?
Just average, like completely average overall.
Okay. None of this. You're not going to bounce between.
Yeah, just 3.
So I don't have to write 3.25 on this thing.
Yeah, just put 3. It's
All
just,
right.
I don't understand. They did so well in one area, and then it just the exact opposite in another.
All right. I remembered the chalk this time. We got a chalkboard so people can see the score. All right. Oh, I just broke the chalk. I didn't hate this movie. It definitely, like I said, 3.5 out of 5. I think it was worth watching just for the visuals, personally. Anything else?
No, it was just average to me. One thing did really well, and the other thing completely took it away. So it's just like in the middle between those two. So just average.
All right. Fair enough. Next week, I kind of want to take a step back. I feel like I missed a slight opportunity. Let's watch. Have you ever watched Johnny Mnemonic?
No, I don't know what that is.
Perfect. This is a movie. It's Keanu Reeves. It's from a story by William Gibson, who wrote Neuromancer, which the cyberpunk universe is heavily based on. So this is is it 90s? Keanu Reeves, so he plays like a data courier guy. Let's watch Johnny Mnemonic next week.
Okay.
Good?
Yeah.
All right. Later, man.
Yep.